mean, what else? What else could we be doing right now, Steve? Lots of things, but we get to do this. I love it. Thank you. My family's hearing all of it too, because I shout at the top of my lungs over the microphone.
I've been told multiple times this last week that that apparently I talk at a loud volume,
Yeah,
and that
like
sometimes it's hard to listen to, and it's painful to their ears.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, they didn't ask to be part of the podcast. They just got drafted with our voices.
Yes.
Anyway, I got way off here. We were talking about Mos Eisley coming back. We're talking about the Sand People and if he had interaction. His cultural acuity and intelligence and willingness to like realize that he is a guest in their space and that they are in charge and that he is not. I really respect that. I think that there's a lot of cultural tension things that are kind of summoned and brought into even the Old West. You know, you're on other people's land where you're mining and taking the resources, you're expecting to use the water, and that's brought up in the scene at the fire there, where it's like, you take our water and now you want to drink our drinks and blah, you know, and it's like, we were, you know, Mando talks about them being there for thousands and thousands of years and knowing the ways of the crate dragon, and so they try to help it sleep longer and everything. It's like there's this deep knowledge that isn't a refined or industrialized or civilized. They're actually a very brutal people, he says, but they have a common enemy that they want to join in together, and they have a wisdom, and he recognizes that, and they respect that he treats them with the knowledge of that respect. I really admire that. I like seeing that in people. It's having a teachable spirit, and this is a place where the Mandalorian as a mercenary and a bounty hunter isn't a hammer. He is a surgical tool of like diplomacy, which where have we seen that up to this point?
You would almost think that it's he's quick to listen and slow to speak. Yeah. So speaking of moving things along, they're at the fire, and then they go and they check out where the crate dragon lives. Then they're still like second guessing by Cobb of like, why are those rocks so small? That's not to scale, and it's like, no, you still don't completely understand how massive this thing is. Then he's bought in. Okay. And they kind of come to the thing, we've got to unite together, because it's a common enemy that we have that is disrupting our pursuit of a peaceful life. You know, it's a nuisance, not only the city dwellers, that the mining guild, the non-mining guild place, but also it also is difficult for the Sand People, because they've been having to, by default, so that they don't have this thing coming out of them at random places, they've been like feeding this thing, man. And in fact, I don't think the villagers actually even comprehend that they, like you said, they have this knowledge of how to make this thing sleep longer and longer. Yeah. And they have a good grasp of its cycle, you know, of sleep, its circadian cycle.
Right. Which can make it sleep longer, which they don't really get into the depth of, like, does that mean it sleeps longer for a year? Like, what is its hibernation cycle? Like, does it go into, is it like every 7 years it appears and wreaks havoc in the desert? And, you know,
it was more about like every 4 days, you know, versus
that's a lot of banthas. That's a lot of woolly banthas you're walking out there to get harvested by the crate, you know?
Yeah.
But as it turns out, I mean, it got tired of the banthas, and there's a big, thick, juicy, woolly bantha right there, and he goes for one of the Sand People that couldn't run fast enough. Well, that guy, like, he didn't see that guy coming.
He must whatever their version of Rochambeau is, I would assume that he is not very good at
short stick. Definitely short stick. Thousands of years of knowledge not found in him.
Yeah.
Didn't work out. Work out.
Recruit the town. The town's like resistant. The town people have their moment where they're, hey, you derogatory name, you're dropping these explosives, and like, Well, of course they know. Like, they've stolen this stuff from you guys before. You know,
Right.
they know how explosive it is.
But now it's the collab. It's the Town and Tusken collab.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're working together, but it's a very tenuous, very stress fraught, fragile alliance.
Yes.
I call it the caravan to the crate, where they floated up all the bombs and everything. But these classic Star Wars scenes where you're in the desert and these people are on a mission together, they're questing, and the music that's playing, I just watch it and I'm like, you know, I everything that I've seen and heard tells me this is a horrible place to live, and I just want to be there right now. I want to be on the back of one of those banthas, or even walking in the sand. Let me carry a bomb. I want to be a part of that caravan.
Yeah.
Why does
that
hold me to the
purpose?
story? Yeah,
Right, we all want to be a part of something that's got a bigger purpose and on a grand scale. You know, I think
it's true.
I think John Eldridge talks about that in some of his books about manhood. We want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. You know, so
purpose, meaning, questing.
And there may be crate vomit that happens.
Well, you know, I mean, this is stuff that like we were indoctrinated into in our childhood with Star Wars, and this was the fire was somehow fueled with either toys given to us, or that we purchased along the way, or that we collected and then expanded knowledge and interest, and then you share it with your kid. My daughter, that's a junior in college, you know, she's texting me this week going, "Dad, are we going to watch Mando together tonight or on Friday when it comes out?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know if we're going to be back from state cross country in Pocatello, but I'd love to watch it with you." And then you had Marco Polo'd me and told me that you'd watch 3/4 of the episode with your daughter that morning. And I was like, well, if I watch like 5 minutes at the beginning on the drive back from Pocatello just to get a taste. So I did. Oh, my daughter was upset, man. She was like, "Dad, you promised." I go, whoa. I promised I would watch it with you, which I'm totally going to do. I'd be glad to watch it again. And the 7 minutes and 26 seconds that I already took in just make me want to watch it all over again.
Oh, yeah.
And then we started watching it. And then my 15-year-old was like, oh, no, the 17-year-old son was like, "Oh, you guys are watching this? Oh, let me warm up my dinner and I'll join you." I'm like, "Okay." So we watched the first 10 minutes again. And then my 15-year-old came down from whatever, you know, Among Us game hole that he was in. And he was like, "Oh, let me warm up my dinner. I'm going to join you guys." And we like started it over again. So I've seen the first 10 to 15 minutes of this Mando episode like 6 times at this point, Steve. Okay. They like the overarching story, that this is a part of a bigger universe and everything. And to me, this is one of the compelling things of being a follower of Christ. For me, it's not just about a religion or the religiosity of that and what humanity makes faith of Christ into. It's a God that has created, loves his creation, seeks to redeem his creation that's fallen away from relationship with him, does so by sending his son himself to redeem it, and wants to make everything new one day and being a part of this story. There's all of these elements throughout Star Wars. And Mando is just this little kind of sliver of it with a character that's super, super interesting. And then getting into his quest. I mean, it just kind of fires my jets, man.
Yeah, it's we as Christians, we're used to hearing other people's testimony. And it's almost like we're getting some insight, like, give me more, you know? I love to hear when I'm in a Bible study and people are being authentic and are letting you in. And there is nothing better than that in a brotherhood in Christ and being a part of the group of followers where people are willing to be vulnerable enough to allow others to pray for them. You know,
this is the way.
And this is the way.
This is the way.